together for maximum performance. We also conduct research into the MarTech industry every year in the form of the State of MarTech report, which surveys over 600 senior marketing professionals across the UK, the US and Europe on things like MarTech adoption, utilization, satisfaction levels, investment, and generally where priorities are around MarTech. And one of the themes from this year's research was around hyper-personalization and how marketeers are tailoring campaigns to their audiences. And a preference center is one of the channels that can open up a whole world of personalization opportunities. So it'll be interesting to see how you'll respond to a few of the other polls that we've got planned throughout Stu's content today. Okay, enough about us. I am pleased to shortly introduce you to Stu Hall-Cooper from our consulting team, who today is just going to be covering these 5 areas around B2B preference centers. So we'll cover the different types of preference center, when the right time to evolve yours is, if you currently have one, or which one might be the best fit for you if you're looking to start from scratch at the moment. How to leverage the preference center for compliance and consent management, defining the right configuration for your business, developing an engaging communications platform, and then activating the data that you get out of it to enhance, improve, or indeed create a personalized user engagement experience. Right, Stu, shortly over to you. So just a quick bit of background. Many of you may know Clever Touch for our MarTech expertise and the specialist team of MarTech experts that we have, we're fortunate to have in our company, but you may be less familiar with the wider marketing experience that we have in our business as well. And that's where kind of Stu's expertise comes in. So he works more specifically with clients across their broader marketing strategy, and then can consult with them on where MarTech sits within it. So Stu does a lot of work around preference centers, campaign design and planning, and works with many of our clients across different industries and sectors. So without further ado, Stu, I'll hand over to you to kick things off.
Yeah, thanks very much, Rich. Pleasure to meet everybody today. It looks like maybe we've got a bit of a mixture of experience with preference centers today. So some of what I'll share with you today may be old news, and some of it might not be old news. Let's go for it. So, I mean, place to start is, what is a preference center? Well, you know, at its core, it's a hub where customers manage their communication preferences. So this includes sort of the type of content they receive, how often they hear from you, and preferred methods of communication. Over time, the preference centers have evolved significantly. They've moved from your simple, opt-in, opt-out forms to being more sophisticated tools that drive personalization and engagement. And that sort of evolution reflects sort of the growing understanding of customer needs and the increasing demand for more tailored experiences. So sort of say, why does a preference center, matter? Well, sort of today's digital age, personalization is key. So a well-designed preference center that places the customer in control of that experience. So, and that empowerment in turn builds trust and fosters loyalty. Preference centers, they address several common pain points. So for instance, they help alleviate the issue of customers being overwhelmed by unwanted communication. So, by giving control, you're significantly reducing your unsubscribe rates and you're boosting your overall engagement. They play a crucial role in shifting towards sort of a privacy-first marketing. So where you've got regulations like GDPR and CCPA, it's vital for businesses to provide customers with the control over their data, and preference centers can play a pivotal role in achieving that too. Okay. So just look at some of the benefits. It's not an exhaustive list, but it's a good place to start. So number one, you're enhancing your customer experience and engagement. So you build trust and transparency by giving customers control over their preferences. And this approach, it reduces your churn, your unsubscribe rates by allowing users to opt down rather than completely opt out. Also drives higher engagement rates because customers are more likely to interact with content they've chosen to receive. It helps them in compliance. Privacy laws become more stringent. Staying ahead of regulatory requirements is crucial. So a preference center can help you manage your customer data in compliance with laws such as previously mentioned, your GDPR and your CCPA, etc. And also, on the other side, it demonstrates an ethical data management practices. So, it helps with, the way that your customer comes across to how you come across to your customers. Sorry. There's also gains in efficiency and cost effectiveness. So, from an operational standpoint, preference centers, optimize your marketing spend. So you're targeting your communications to only those who are particularly interested. So, that leads in itself to better ROI. Furthermore, you can automate your preference management. So you include that into your marketing operations. So therefore, you're reducing manual errors and you're freeing up time from your team to focus on more strategic tasks. Less manually processing an email unsubscribe that's coming in. But then the other side of that then as well is leveraging your data. So deeper personalization. So, they provide that valuable first-party data direct from the customers. Instrumental, gaining a little bit of extra insight from your customers, but it enhances your segmentation and refines your targeting strategies. And then it gives you a little bit of a competitive space in the marketplace. So, it differentiates you by demonstrating a commitment to, customer centricity and transparency, and allows you sort of respond very quickly to the feedback you're getting through the center, changes in interests. So you can evolve quickly. You can evolve your marketing strategies quicker. I think we've got another poll actually, which is a good time to bring this up. We've got fire that one up?
Yeah, poll on screen now, Stu. So what's the biggest challenge you faced in managing customer preferences? And the options here are keeping customer data up to date, integrating preference data with marketing platforms, ensuring compliance with regulations, as you were just saying, Stu, or encouraging customers to update their preferences. Sorry, finally, we don't face any challenges, which would be a bold choice for anyone to choose. So we'll give you a few seconds to select your answer there. What are the common challenges with the projects that you worked on with our clients, Stu?
They resonate with some of the polls that we're seeing at the moment now. So how do you get that data from your preference center into your automation platforms and CRM platforms? So that's one. And then number two is, okay, we've got this great tool, but as we're seeing in the polls here, is how do we actually get adoption of that tool? They're the big ones. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
So, they mirror very quickly, mirroring those results, I think, very, very nicely. So, what we found is that when we look at there's different types of preference centers, and they fit the different needs of companies at different stages in their journeys. So what I've done here is I sort of tried to categorize them for you, and I wanted to have a look at each one and what their characteristics are. But also, maybe the preference center that you have isn't quite right for where you want to be. So we'll look at, when's the right time to progress to the next evolution of a preference center and to look at. So what we'll do is I'll just dive into sort of each one. So I've called this, a simple and a basic preference center, a smart preference center, specialized, and one that I've just termed here as a service-focused preference center. So each designed to meet different needs and complexity. Sorry to jump in, Stu. What's the significance of the arrow on this slide? So what we're seeing here is from the left is your simple is for organizations that may be making their first journey into managing preferences. Whereas, and then you're progressing from the left to the right, where you're actually moving through these stages of adding more sophistication and granularity into managing your preferences, to where you get to the far end, which is, as you'll see in the moment, is managing not just communication preferences, consent preferences, but maybe things related to the delivery of a service as well. And they can have very sophisticated integrations and processes sitting in the back end as well. Awesome. Okay. Cool. Okay. So let's dive into the first one. So simple and basic preference center, sort of ideal for organizations that are just beginning their journey in managing the preference centers. So typical characteristics would be sort of basic opt-in. So, they allow users to simply subscribe or unsubscribe from emails. Straightforward, but can be fairly limited in scope, personalization scope. Because of that, there's minimal options to tailor the experience that your user will receive afterwards. So, they can choose to receive or not receive communications, but there's no deeper personalization in there. And they do tend to focus on a single channel. So the most common one by far is email. People think of preference centers, they think of email. And they don't really tend to be too deeply integrated beyond that. Design can be rudimentary, really nice, user-friendly, but simple, to the point. So good times to use these. Well, if your starting point, you're just starting off with a preference center, these are a good way to start. Basic solution to gather user preferences, or perhaps your communication needs are just very straightforward and you handle a limited number of interactions. But there may be also other constraints, so maybe around your resources, and they could be limited. So this is a good way to start capturing preferences, managing some of those. Opt out, reducing opt outs and to unsubscribes. So basic one's quite good for that. I do have a couple of examples of ones we've done with other clients for this one here. So one here, this is Mitsubishi Electric's preference center that we did earlier in the year. So as you can see here, it's capturing some basic contact information. And then you can see some sort of what sort of preferences would I like to receive here. Here there's maybe an option on channels. And as direct mail is in here, there's an option for just capturing address details. Another one that we did, this Deloitte Luxembourg's preference center, again, nice and clean, just capturing basic contact information and some preferences there. This one has a very strong call, opt-in call. And this one, this form is particularly about managing the preferences, whereas consent here, they have a link to another form there where people can manage their consent opt-out.
I know you'll talk about the difference between preferences and consent later, Stu, but I guess there is often a natural crossover in some cases.
Yeah, definitely. They're definitely not. They're definitely related to each other. There is a big crossover, and a preference center. You have your consent management process. You're quite right. We'll cover this in a minute, but you have your consent management. But preference center is a good way to plug into that, and is a good way to interact with it. Absolutely. Yep. So when is the good time to look to sort of say, okay, we've done the simple, but we're ready to evolve? Well, if your system's pretty basic and it can't accommodate sort of the nuanced preferences like specific content types or communication frequencies, that's the sort of time you should be looking to move, particularly if you're finding your users find it challenging to adjust the settings or they lack the flexibility that they want. But also, maybe you want to create a bit more of an experience around your brand. So, these are very basic. You go in, you update, and you leave. There's not much engagement there. So, maybe if you want people to hang around a bit more, there are other ways to improve that. But also, it's talking about the compliance as well. As data protection regulations become a little bit more complex, you may need a little bit more processing in the back end to ensure that you're not at risk of any legal issues. Okay, so that's a simple one. We've got next one, which I'm referring to as smart. So sort of characteristics here, it offers more sophisticated features. So a little bit more around customization. So, users can more deeply personalize their preferences. So what content types or the frequency of communication, things that even help even further provide a more tailored experience. Also, it can be a little bit more different channels, although we demonstrated that it's not exclusive to smart. We had that in the simple one where you could select email, SMS, social media. You're trying to create that more unified experience. But also, if you want to make the content a little bit more dynamic, so you're enhancing the relevance of the options that you're showing. And it's a little bit more sophisticated design. So we're introducing things like conditional fields or conditional visibility based on back-end data, or maybe even progressive profiling. for that more interactive experience. So, when to use this. So maybe it's your organization, you're dealing with growing complexity and you need to manage detailed user experiences, or you're looking to boost engagement through that personalized content and interactions, or your user expectations are rising and they demand more control over what they're receiving. We've got a couple more examples for this as well. So this is Wellington Management, asset management firm, their preference center. And you can see here we started to add in some functionality to extend the personalization options in here as well. So expand, and then the idea is you hide away the things that you don't need to see. Another example, LEK Consulting that we've done here. Again, opt into your area of interest or industry communications, but also you could select and say, look, I'm part of the alumni, and then we get some additional fields revealed to help with selecting preferences for that. So maybe you've got a separate email address, or down here there's additional communication options that weren't available before. And another one that I've got here is Impacts Asset Management. And this one, when we did this, we designed it so that there's a whole section here for US mutual funds, but this would update depending on the region that was stored against the user. So if that was saying in the UK, this would be replaced with UK funds. Okay. So when's a good time to involve from this? So if you need even greater granularity, so more control over choosing specific type of content or timing, or even greater personalization, again beyond those basic options, and you're just hiding and showing. Or maybe none of these have it as well, but it recalls data, so managing data. So users need the ability to manage their own data and preferences independently. Is a good time to move. Then the next one, specialized preference centers. So these are tailored for more specific industries and complex needs. So sort of a typical characteristic here would be industry specific functionality that's designed to meet the unique needs of, so think of finance or healthcare, or other functionalities that cater to specific sector requirements. The features for managing detailed compliance needs, so regulatory reporting or consent management, or tailored interfaces that address the specific requirements of different industries. And I've got a good example of this in a moment. So when would you look to use one of these? Well, you're operating in that regulated sector, or maybe it's just a very niche sector with its own unique compliance or preference or operational needs. Or maybe you need to navigate more intricate data protection regulations and provide detailed reporting behind that, so you have some sort of audit history to support your consent management. Or maybe it's because you're handling highly sensitive data, and you require additional controls that sit in behind the scenes. So let me show you an example of a preference center just like this. So here we have this is Legal & General's investment management fund center. So here we're seeing it's not managing your email preferences or your communication preferences, but it's managing what funds that you might be interested in. So this is the open page, but you can see there you can go into my funds there where it's specifically for you. And here you could see what I'm interested in is funds related to equity, or whole range of currency based, GB funds. And then this will personalize these preferences will be recorded, and it will then be used to personalize the communications that get sent out of them to the user, based on which funds that they're interested in. So when's time to look to evolve to one of these? Well, if your platform requires detailed management of service, so not just providing content or communications, but you're moving into service. So think, content visibility for things that you might be posting yourself, contributing, or payment preferences. I think you can probably see what I'm alluding to there. Or you want greater control over your interactions, or you want an even higher level of personalized experience that impacts the service that you're provided with. So let's go into that, because it's the last step in this evolution. And these are designed, I've coined them service focused preference centers. There's no real key term for them here, but sort of typical characteristic for these are, allowing users to manage specifics of their service experience. So think of, as I mentioned, content visibility and payment options. So, providing control over who sees things that you post. I think social media here, or what notifications you receive based on interactions with your posts. Or maybe it's more sophisticated user profiles, so managing data including like payment methods or delivery addresses. So here we're thinking e-commerce, so your Amazon, your eBays, for example. And so if I just, eBay, Facebook here, so you can see here much more granular level of detail in terms of the preference it's capturing. What push notifications, emails do I want to see, but when do I, managing when I get notified about tags. And then the other option to say is Amazon, so preferences around addresses, delivery addresses, and storing them for your defaults and your preferences. And then payment options. So what are your preferred payment methods? So that's kind of the very far end, where it's not just there managing, as I said, your communications, but it's also managing how the service is delivered to you as well. So that's
I think this one, Stu, I think many people may not associate this with a preference center, because this is dictating the wider customer experience, isn't it, for that service or platform. But ultimately, it does all come from having a preferences service or option for the users of that platform to tailor the experience to exactly how they want it.
Absolutely, and of course, this will only fit organisations that have that online particular type of service. And as I said, it's not a case of, hey, I've got I'm at a smart level, and okay, clearly, if I want to be more mature, I need to move to something more specialised. It still needs to fit your marketing strategy and what you're able to do with the data you're capturing as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's sort of the evolution there of preference centers and their capabilities and characteristics, and when's a good time to look to move to the next one. The next practice that I just wanted to share with you was leveraging your preference center for compliance and consent. So sort of mentioned before, let's clarify, right? Two key concepts: consent management and preference management. So your consent management involves obtaining permission to collect and use customer data. Okay, so that's about ensuring compliance, the regulations, like I mentioned, GDPR and CCPA, which ensures that you're legally allowed to use the customer data and demonstrate your commitment to privacy. Then there's preference management, so which focuses on how customers interact with your brand. It allows them to specify, how often they want to hear from you, what content they receive, and what channels they use. So which helps there in creating that tailored communication and keeping engagement high. So the first one is really, this is me saying that you can or cannot market to me. The next one is saying, here's what I'd like you to market to me. Okay. So what we're saying, let's discuss like integrating consent management into preference center. I think this came up as one of the pain points as well. So look, your preference should serve as the single hub for managing consents and preferences. So that could also mean incorporating cookie consent management into the same system if you want to get really advanced with it. The integration, that simplifies the user experience and ensures sort of compliance with all consent requirements. But also, you want to look at real-time updates, so that ensuring that any changes to consent settings are uploaded across all the relevant systems. That approach helps maintain accurate records and ensures that users have up-to-date preferences. So I've got a little bit further on about how you manage that data and ensure that. But yeah, actually start to look at integrating the two together. Think about greater granular preference options. So, I mentioned opt-down options. So instead of opting out completely, give users the option to reduce the frequency of comms or select specific content types. That allows your users to engage your brand even if they want fewer interactions. And then, as I said, take it that step further and integrate your cookie management tool with it as well to offer detailed options for your cookie consent, allowing users to manage preferences for different cookie types, like essential, performance, or advertising cookies. And just a couple of hints and tips as well to help with this. Clear, understandable language, descriptive consent options, and data uses explanations. So put them in your preference center as well, like providing straightforward explanations of how customer data and cookie would be used. So that could either be very clear and obvious links through the data privacy policies, or even summary paragraphs on the page as well. Okay. So that's the first one. And then I said that I would talk about defining, I've called it defining your preference center configuration. So this is actually to do with the back end a little bit more of how you manage your preference center. So several key issues in this is the platform that you use to host the preference center, the platform that you're using for the forms in the preference center. They don't need to be the same. Your primary source of data, and as I mentioned, how to bring all of this together seamlessly. So let's address the first one of those. Where should the preference center sit? Well, we've actually got quite a few options here for us. So number one could be in your content management system, where you host your website. And to do that, you could be using a native form from your content management system, not normally the one that we'd say to go for. It's all hosted directly in the CMS, and the setup's nice and straightforward, but it will mean often that you have limited integration with your marketing automation and CRM systems. And because it's sat just in the CMS, you started to get siloed data. The option that we often work with clients would be embedding a form from your marketing automation platform. So you're still using your content management platform for your page, but you've embedded a form from your marketing automation platform. So that gives you sort of more real-time access to the preferences, so enhancing your marketing functionality. And it integrates more effectively with those workflows, and where the automation platform is integrated and maybe synchronized with your CRM, that data is feeding straight back into your CRM system. Or the third option that we've sort of pulled out here is you do have consent management platforms that do preference management as well, and often they'll have functionality where you can embed a form from that platform into your CMS as well. So there you're bringing in, that advanced compliance features that come with those platforms. They have, more detailed audit trails that come with them. That said, though, we often work with clients to build in those sort of audit and consent management processes and and data management tools in CRMs and marketing automation platforms as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a consent management tool as well.
Sorry to jump in, but the platform that is best for any organization will naturally depend on the nature of the technologies that they've got in their stack or their spine, right? And how they're delivering campaigns and engaging with their audiences.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously you've got the tools that are in place at the moment, but there's also actually, do the tools we have in place at the moment meet the needs of our market and the requirements that we have? So actually, sometimes there might be a need to sort of say, okay, look, not just for our preference management, but actually we need to look at the tools that we're using because they're not fit for purpose. This is, and consent management and preference management, can be an entryway to sort of saying, okay, look, we've been using our website for hosting our forms and the like, but actually we need a little bit more automation in the back end of that. So maybe we should be looking at plugging in our marketing automation tool in order to streamline and initiate some sort of workflows and automations off the back of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of which, marketing automation platforms is another place. So, so Marketo's, your account engagement, HubSpots, etc. So actually building your preference center in those platforms and hosting them, and you can style them up to make it look like your website. As you would do with a campaign landing page that you build in those platforms. And of course, they have form functionality in there as well, which you can so you're using the marketing automation platform and you're using the native marketing automation form there. So that provides, again, those real-time updates for, personalization and your journeys and initiating your journeys. Again, though, the key for making all of this work is ensuring that that's connected to your CRM or to your RP or to your CDP or to whatever you consider to be your primary source of data. Of course, there's also still the option of content management platform. If if you need something as robust as that, you can always embed a form from that into your marketing automation platform as well, if you're hosting it there. And then, of course, the third option is you just go the full hog. You've got your consent management platform in place like OneTrust, and you're building your preference center straight in there, and you're using the form functionality which comes out of that platform. And there you're getting, robust audit trails, data protection. It's really suitable for businesses with those stringent privacy needs. Downsides might be sort of limitations around making that information available to your marketing automation tool in real time. So just something to think about there. And then, where does that primary data to sit? So not an exhaustive list, but we've pulled out the main ones that people deal with. So you have the marketing automation platform could be your primary source. So some of the pros here, as I said, I mentioned the real-time updates, personalization capabilities for that dynamic marketing. Some of the cons, if it's not properly integrated, you've created another silo. So you need to make sure it's there. But this option is great for organizations needing immediate updates and to initiate those personalized marketing efforts. Your CRM might be your primary source of data. Obviously, key here is to making sure that it's synchronized and integrated properly. So that could be directly or maybe using some form of middleware. We've done that with many clients, depending on how many CRM systems they're updating or other platforms that they're connecting to. But with this, the pros is you provide that centralized view of the customer data. So ensuring that your records are available across various teams that maybe don't have access to your marketing automation tool. So think customer services or sales. So it's great for businesses that require that a comprehensive customer record and broad access across those teams. And then just the third one that I've called out here is that you saw your compliance management platform. So again, thinking here of platforms such as OneSource, great for ensuring adherence to privacy regulations and that strong audit tail and compliant management. So a little bit limited in your marketing flexibility and agility due to immediacy of data, availability of the data. But this is the key for organisations that are really prioritising compliance and data protection, especially in regulated industries. So integration is crucial for maintaining that single accurate view of each customer. That helps ensure consistency and also personalized interactions. But also by syncing your customer preferences and consents in real time across your systems, you're supporting your accurate data processing and enhancing your marketing strategies and compliance.
So there's a lot of options to really between where the primary data source should sit and where the preference center itself should sit. And
it does come down to your needs, who you are, and what we do. So what I'll do is I'll spend time with the clients. So say, hey, look, we need to spend time with we need to work on our preference center, and I will go through these with them and explore with our clients different options for them and what's most suitable for their needs, and which work best for their current setup.
It's so heavily based around the platforms that they're currently using, and then more importantly, how they're integrated and connected together.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've covered it. We talked about the different types of preference centers. We've talked about where should they sit, how do you set them up, where does the data kind of sit. So we've got our preference center up and running, but it's no good if nobody's using it. So our next best practice here is you've got to develop a communications plan for your preference center. So the success of your it depends not only on the features that you have in there, but the value that it's providing to customers. That what we say is, have that communication plan, and look, let's just talk about, some sort of launch campaign or promotional campaign that's going to drive awareness of that and build adoption. So sort of stages that you also need to configure. If you're a campaign marketer, a lot of this will look very familiar to you. But you should be focusing on here and building awareness of that it exists, the preference center exists, the benefits for using it, and also ensuring that there's some sort of call to action in there, the imperative to go to the preference center and use it. That's the first one. The next one is your target audience. So yes, you could go out and say, right, okay, we've launched this, we're going to go out to our entire base and inform them that we've got this new center, or we've made some changes to the center, or they should be using our preference center. But sometimes it's worth thinking about actually being a little bit more granular in your segmentation, and you can tailor your message appropriately. So to increase the likelihood that they'll click through and update their preferences. So maybe targeting new customers. So you're introducing them to the center as part of their onboarding process. Maybe you've got a set there of very low engagement customers, prospects, or they're inactive. They've been sat there, and you're looking for something to support a nurture campaign that you might be running. So inviting people to re-engage through the preference center is a way to reach those people. Or even at the very other end, it's the high value customers. So you want to highlight exclusivity and personalized experience that they'll get through using the preference center. So it's, almost, we're tailoring this, it's very unique to you. So, showing your appreciation for their loyalty. Thinking about your message. So, you highlight the benefits and the ease of use. And the control that the user's gonna have over their preferences, and how they can reduce any unwanted messages. But your message should also look at creating some urgency or providing some sort of exclusivity. So you're encouraging that immediate action with phrases like "be amongst the first to personalize your experience," or you're offering incentives like discounts or prizes. Everyone that updates their preferences gets entered into our prize draw. That will for the ticket to wherever. But also think about the channels that you use. So email is the one that immediately comes to reach. So you're going out with a series of emails, maybe reminder emails. And you're looking to looking to reactivate dormant customers by showing how the personalized comms can benefit them. But also think about other channels as well. So maybe you have a whole set of users which are opted out already, unsubscribed, so using social media or things through the web, so promoting it through engaging posts or website banners as people are organically moving through your own website, or maybe promoting it on adverts on other people's sites as well. So using visual content and maybe even supporting with custom testimonials to build a little bit of proof around the benefits of personalizing the content they want to receive. Okay, but not just that there as well. So look at integrating it across your whole customer journey. So it's not just a single bedded campaign that's a fire and forget or run and let it go its course. Put it into your existing marketing campaign. So put in there a call to action related to the preference center. So that could be in the product launch or a seasonal promotion, maybe running a regular newsletter. But just be sure to remind customers of the benefits that they get for updating their preferences. Leverage key touch points such as onboarding emails, order confirmations, post-purchase follow-ups to promote the center. Ideal moments for reinforcing the value of personalizing their communication. And then also ensure it's predominantly features in customer account areas and support sections. Make it easier for people in those areas to update their preferences while they're engaging with their account, or they're seeking assistance. It's engaging other people in the business. Just ensuring that all customer-facing staff are informed about how somebody can go about updating their preferences, that they know to talk about as much, and where to direct people to the preference center. Okay, so that's driving people to your site. It's not enough to just put it up there and have a little footer on the bottom of your emails that say don't unsubscribe, manage your preferences. Well, if you're used to not getting, if your unsubscribe rates are low, your click-throughs to your preference center are going to be low if that's the only way that you get people there, and you're not going to reap the benefits of creating those personalized journeys. Okay. Going to move on to activating preference data. Activating this this data that you're capturing in the preference center for personalized user engagement. But I think we've got another poll that we're just going to run here. So, how personalized are your communications based on your customer preferences? So, got 4 options for us: highly personalized, somewhat personalized, not very personalized, not personalized at all.
And I think this is kind of highlighting where the opportunity is of all of this, right, Stu? Because I think it's quite easy to think of a preference center sometimes as a necessity, maybe, rather than an opportunity to really make it part of a strategy.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, there's almost, it's seen as a compliance checkbox,
Exactly.
or we feel that we should have this, but actually, the trick is once you've got this, is leveraging it and actually activating it. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So what we're seeing here, so coming up top, somewhat personalized, and not very personalized. Interesting that the bottom is we haven't got any votes for highly personalized. So there's definitely an opportunity there to look at creating more unique experience and tailoring experiences for clients using the data that's being captured.
That poll result is actually is consistent with our state of MarTech research around the personalization theme and subject, in that it's always seen as an ambition for marketeers, but actually the reality is quite different. The personalization capabilities are always further down than the desire to actually do them. So at least it's consistent with what we see.
Yeah. So let's have a look at how do we go about leveraging the preference data to create those personalized user engagements. So first and foremost, look at the data that you're capturing. So do a little bit of analysis. That's crucial for making the most out of the data you're capturing in your preference center. So start with segmenting your audience based on those segments. For instance, categorize it by preferred content types, or if they want news or product information, or if they're just interested in special offers. But you could also do things like frequency as well to streamline your audience selection when you come to launch your campaigns or run your campaigns. So here's my audience for daily, here's my audience for weekly, here's my audience for monthly, and of course then the more obvious one there is in interest. So I'm interested in this solution range or this product category. When creating these, ensure that they're actionable and meaningful. So don't overcomplicate your marketing efforts with too many micro segments. Instead focus on segments which are substantial enough to provide valuable insights, but not so granular that they become difficult to manage effectively. People often get caught there, and that's often a reason why people don't go down the personalization route. And it's also essential to perform your frequent analysis for insights that you're driving out of the personalization. So regularly review the data to help identify emerging trends and shifts in behavior. So if you notice, for example, growing interest in a particular product line, you can adjust your marketing strategy to better cater to that demand. So it's actually informing the communications that you're sending out. And you can use those insights to sort of tailor your content and your offer. So you're personalizing your message to align with the segment's preferences. So if a customer has indicated preference for eco-friendly products, make sure your communications highlight offerings for your sustainable offerings, and make sure that's promoted prominently. But also developing your targeted promotions that will resonate with those. So if a user frequently engages with a specific product category, consider providing them with exclusive discounts on those products. Yeah, and use it to optimize your journey. So, map out each stage of your customer journey, from awareness down to the post-purchase follow-ups, ensuring it reflects the user's preferences. So if a user prefers to receive updates via email, well, you prioritize email communications through their journey. If they prefer text, you cut down on the emails that you're sending them. But also you use that information to think about things like, dynamic content on your website. So somebody's experience differs depending on what preferences that they've experienced, and the content which gets promoted to them, or the copy that they see, differs, and the message that they see differs. So therefore, you're making their experience with you, that interaction, as relevant as possible. And then look at closing the loop. So make sure you're reflecting their choices in the messaging. Show the impact of their preferences, so highlight their choices they've made, so call it out, based on your preferences, here are your tailored recommendations, just to reinforce the value of that personalization, and also strengthen the customer trust. And then encourage users to continually update their preferences, so the information you have remains relevant and up to date. Not only helps you, refining your strategies, but also ensure your content remains sort of valuable and engaging for your audience. Okay, so just wrapping up that, leveraging your preference data effectively is key to enhancing your user engagement and personalizing your marketing efforts. So conducting your regular analysis, tailoring your content and offers, you're sort of closing that loop with relevant comms, and incorporating sort of that feedback. You create more meaningful and engaging customer experiences. So really use that data. Don't just capture it for consent purposes, but actually look at ways that it can drive your marketing and tailor the experiences for your individuals, so you get that hyper personalized experience. Okay, so just key takeaways. One, evolve your preference center. So first and foremost, it's crucial your preference center evolves to meet your marketing objectives and your users' needs. So regularly assess and refine its functionality to keep pace with the change in expectations. Number two, prioritize your data privacy and compliance. So embedding robust data management preference measures into your preference center. Essential for building and maintaining customer trust. So you're ensuring it complies with your regulations, your GDPR, CPVA, for example. Defining your preference center configuration, so what's happening in the back end, so choosing the right platform, looking at the data management behind that, and operational efficiency. So maybe that's the CMS, your marketing automation platform, your CRM, consent management platform solutions, and how they all tie together to support that seamless data flow and user experience. Develop an engaging communication plan to drive awareness and maximize engagement. It should be clear messaging on the benefits of the preference center, and employ multi-channel approach. So utilize your email, social media, and then the last one is actually use that data. So activate it, leverage your preference data to personalize your user engagement. So making the most of the data you collect, tailoring your comms and offers based on that data, to provide more relevant and engaging interactions. Right, I think we've got one final poll here as well. Is it one more? So what would be your main goal in implementing or improving a preference center? So we've got enhancing customer experience, ensuring regulatory compliance, improve the data collection for personalization, just reducing your opt-outs, your unsubscribes, or you're not sure.
And this one's a select all the options that apply. It's an even split.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this just highlights that there are many reasons to do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's not a one trick pony, that your preference center can actually be used for multiple things in your marketing ops and your marketing comms and your marketing strategies, or actually not just marketing, but in your general communications around with your prospects and customers. Yeah. Okay. Pretty even spread. Well, I'm going to hand back over to Rich.
Thank you, Stu. That was really good. And it's obviously a slightly longer webinar for us this month, but a really, really big subject that can be, just shows how complex preference centers can be. And like Stu said, the need to evolve them, the need to understand the best way to configure. And if you're currently looking at a preference center project, or the stuff that Stu has covered today is making you think about evolving yours, naturally that's something we can help with. So Stu sits within our consultancy team who advise clients across the globe on how best to design and implement their preference centers all the time. So what we would be very pleased to do for anyone that's signed up to the webinar, whether you've joined us live or you're watching this on demand, we'd be very pleased to book in a 1 hour session with you, with Stu or someone else in his team, so we can really understand the nature of your business and the preference center setup that you may already have, or if you're looking at creating one for the first time, the best way that you can set up and implement that. So if you'd like to do that, I believe there is a button which you can press within this deck. Just here, it should be on your screen now. So if you just hit the get in touch button, that will take you to a form on our website where you can get in touch. We will follow up with everyone with a link to the recording for today, and some details as to how you can book that consultation as well. Before we sign off, Stu, I'll just check if we've had any questions. I think you've probably done a very good job at answering any possible questions anyone may have had along the way in the content. So if there are any questions, you can get in touch with us. Email address that you can use is either marketing@clever-touch.com or training@clever-touch.com, which will be on the follow-up email that we send you. So all that's left is really to say thank you everyone for joining. Also a big thank you to you, Stu, for putting the content together for the audience today, and also happy birthday.
Hey, Jake, thank you, dude.
You nearly got away with it.
Yeah. Woo, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
What better way?
Yeah,
what better way to spend your birthday, eh?
Absolutely.
Fab. All right. Thanks for joining, everyone.